Ready? This is a round robin, right?
Round robin, baby.
Anybody see the last one, by the way?
Yeah.
That's funny because still not a lot of likes. All right, here we go. 3, 2, 1.
Yippee Ki Yay, mother.
Welcome to the party, pal.
Welcome to Yippee Ki Yay Mother Podcast Round Robin Edition. I'm Ralph Quattrucci.
I'm Sean Paul Murphy.
I'm Deborah Murphy.
I'm John Quattrucci.
And I'm Chris Coker.
Hey, everybody. Good week.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
I thought you and Chris would be in the same place again. What's up?
That was a good show.
That was a good bit.
I actually liked it so much that Chris even lent me his Streets of Fire DVD Blu-ray.
Mm-hmm.
And I
did you appreciate it more seeing it that way?
It looks better for sure. And the two documentaries look pretty interesting too. So thank you, Chris, for those.
And Michael Pare was better in it.
He looks great in the doc. I don't know when they shot the doc, but he looks great in the doc.
Yeah.
He really does look good.
Well, he's Tom Cody.
And then I sent Chris source code. He hadn't seen source code.
I haven't had a chance to sit down and watch it.
We did have fun. We played a game at his house. We had a little happy hour at his house, I think the night after.
I don't want to hear what the game
we played
after we got off the show. All right.
No.
This is not that kind of
listen
podcast,
to this. This is
right?
a fun game. It was a Blockbuster game, like the store. Yeah. It was awesome.
Oh,
we had to act out movie scenes and stuff. It was fun.
You acted out movie scenes?
I didn't do a good job. Maria didn't know what the hell I was doing.
We got that game. We haven't played it yet. Man,
that sounds like fun. I would love that.
It is. It's kind of fun.
Yeah, it's a lot of fun.
Why don't we, when we get together for our big 100th podcast, why don't we plan on doing that?
Sure.
Let's do it instead of a movie. It'd be fun.
That would be great.
Quick.
Oh, that would be.
Speaking of which, let's do What'd You Watch? What'd you watch? John, what'd you watch?
Well, okay. So, first of all, I started watching The Batman.
Okay.
And I got to be honest with you, after about an hour and 15 minutes, I shut it off because I just couldn't watch it. It was too dark and plotting.
But you had seen that in the theater.
I know.
Right?
And I liked it actually, but watching it on HBO Max, I didn't like it.
Oh, wow.
So in preparation for the 80s action theme, which is what we're talking about today, I went through a list of the 80 best action movies, and one of them was Terminator 2 Judgment Day, which I just watched yesterday. And that movie still holds up. It's the action in that movie is fantastic. James Cameron, he's a bear to work with, but the guy knows how to shoot action. Linda Hamilton was great in it. Schwarzenegger was also great in it. But I just love that movie. Robert Patrick playing that Terminator, the way he ran. I just love that movie, and it absolutely still holds up today and was as good as when I first saw it back then. So that's what I watched.
Really, as good as, because when I first saw that movie, it blew me away. I couldn't get over the stuff he was pulling off in that. And that's the one that has the guy that turns into the floor, right?
Yeah, the liquid metal.
And that was
the
after,
T1000.
was that after Abyss or before Abyss?
That was after Abyss.
Yeah, so he did. He
Once
learned all
they
that
did the
stuff.
Abyss, they realized they could do it.
Right.
Yeah.
And I remember watching that going, holy cow, that's amazing. That liquid metal stuff was just.
That was morphing. They first of all.
That's right.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. And, it was so much better than the Abyss. The Abyss was such a cool movie. They just didn't know how to end it.
Yeah.
No,
you ever seen the making of that movie? You ever seen the making of that movie and what a hard shoot that was?
Yeah, Ed Harris was pissed.
Yeah, he was, because Marley Maitland, not Marley Maitland. What the hell's her name?
Mary Beth Marianne Strong.
Yeah.
Whatever.
That scene where they ripped open her shirt and were trying to get her.
She's drowning.
They did that over and over again. That's when Harris blew up on James Cameron.
Yeah.
But this movie, just like I said, I just watched it and it still had the same beats. I still really enjoyed it. It's just a really good action movie. It really is
probably one of the best action films of the decade.
One of the best.
This is, again, when we do these round robins and these these genres or the category, it's amazing.
Yeah.
Because we all do it, find me the 15 best, whatever, because you want to pick a good one. And then you find stuff that you forgot about, which is what I do. Yeah. And I'm glad I did it. So Sean and Debbie, what'd you watch?
Well, I don't think Debbie watched much.
I think Debbie has her own agency. She could speak for herself, couldn't she? What
did you watch, Debbie?
Let's see. What I watched.
Okay, back to me.
Debbie, Sean, what did I watch? Hey,
Debbie didn't watch much.
Hey, Charlie McCarthy, what did I watch? Well, I'll tell you.
But I did what Ralph with John did. I wanted to see it in the theaters, so I started to watch the Batman, and it was difficult because I was watching it during the day, and my room was nowhere near where the TV is.
Yeah.
No, after a while, you just got to the point where it's like, I just have to acknowledge I'm not going to see everything in this movie.
Well, I did that in the theater. I felt the same way in the theater.
Yeah. So it lost energy to me like after about 2 hours. There was a lot I liked about the movie, but after a while I just let it play and I got back on the computer to do some stuff. However, what I also watched, which Debbie didn't have a chance, I didn't want to. What are you talking about, baby?
She's doing her shtick. It's awesome.
I'm miming you.
Yeah.
Yeah. I was watching because I'm from Baltimore. I live in Baltimore, and I was watching the new series on HBO set in Baltimore. We Own This Town.
Yeah.
Episode 1 was up, and
that's about the corrupt cops. Is that what that's about?
Yeah, I know. I'm shocked. Corrupt cops.
Baltimore? What?
HBO. It never happened. But they call them the most. But the gun trace task force, which people said was the most corrupt police unit in the United States, and that's saying something. And
is this sort of it's not a sequel to The Wire, but it's kind of Wire-like. Everybody is that?
Yeah, I tell you what, the first episode, I read the books, so I knew who the characters were. But I was thinking someone who I didn't see it with Debbie yet. I wanted to watch it. I think if you didn't, you'll be hard to follow because it's multi-person, it's an ensemble thing. You're going to have a hard time following it if you, I think, episode 1, if you're not familiar with the background of it. So I'm really looking forward to it. I think it's really well done. I think there's a guy who was in the writing you may have known. Nick Pelicanos or whatever his name was.
Yeah, Pelicanos.
The guest that won't leave, that guy?
I threw him out of my house.
That's amazing.
You loser. You never going to amount to nothing. Boy, was I wrong.
Yeah, we could have had him on this show.
Yeah, I could have. He doesn't know who I am. We could call him up. He wouldn't know.
He would be talking like halfway through the episode. We'd see him like looking at the thing.
Wait a second.
You threw me out.
I know you.
Right. That's the guy who kicked me out of his
party.
party.
That's my brush with greatness. What can I say? That's how I treated it.
No, but I right. It's hard to, it's like, well, Drew was like, well, first episode was good, so I'm really looking forward to seeing the rest. They usually do a pretty good quality job when they shoot something in Baltimore about corruption or crime or the way the city is.
It's a fruitful ground. What do they call it? Fruitful. Yeah. We
make it easy.
All right. Yeah. That's on HBO, right?
HBO. Plays every Monday night.
Okay.
I was worried that it didn't have, because it seems like the prime shows have a Sunday night premiere, but this is coming in on Monday nights.
Yeah.
Hope that's not a lack of confidence on HBO.
The Lakers thing is a Sunday night appointment thing. So, Chris, what'd you watch?
Honestly, I've had a crazy busy week, so I've watched virtually nothing. But funny thing, how occasionally we talk about other things, sports and whatnot. I dovetailing from our conversation last week about Streets of Fire, and I'm not sure how this happened because I am a Bruce Springsteen fan. I was never that familiar or really familiar at all with the Darkness on the Edge of Town album. And the song Streets of Fire, which did not appear in the film that we discussed last week. So I listened to that album, and it's great when you find something that was kind of hidden from you, and it just blew my mind. It's a fantastic album. So I probably listened to it, I'm not exaggerating, like straight through like 4 or 5 times since we met last week. And it's just,
wow.
Yeah, it's great.
Did it make you think of Tom Cody?
It's let me put it this way. They talked about it a little bit in some of the documentaries about how the original script was much, much darker, and how originally in the big fight, you'd mentioned, Sean, how he just pushes Willem Dafoe over at the end. Yeah. Originally in the end of the fight, Willem Dafoe is about to win, and Tom Cody just pulls out a knife and stabs him to death. Like he was willing to do anything to win. So it was a much darker script. And apparently at one point early on, Walter Hill came out and just said, yep, we're not doing the crazy violence thing. There isn't going to be any blood, spurting blood. Anyway, but it brought me to this album, which is much darker than that film. But man, that is a great album. If you haven't listened to it, Darkness on the Edge of Town, it's fantastic.
It's awesome. I read that Walter Hill quote at the beginning of one of the docs. I thought I can't even quote it back, but I thought he nailed what he was going for. I mean, he didn't do a great job at it, but he was going for something there. So,
yeah.
All right. So I went to the movie theater and saw The Unbearable Weight of Massive Talent. Starring Nicolas Cage.
Sure.
And let me say this. I'm not going to do a big review on the film. The film was fantastic. I mean, and his lead, the guy, who's that? Pedro Pascal?
Pedro
Pascal. Fantastic.
Yeah,
both of them
from
together.
The Mandalorian.
Nick Cage, obviously together. I mean, I just love the man. I got my pillow.
Oh, wow.
And I just thought, I don't want to do a big review because John and I are going to do it on
Yeah, we're going to do it on Cue It Up.
Have you seen it yet?
No, I'm going to go tomorrow night.
Okay. Here's my but what I'm going to talk about is being in the movie theater. Okay. And it was a little frustrating. I think people are still feeling like they're all sitting in their house because we had 4 people behind us who just couldn't shut up. Trailers are one thing, right? You're hearing it through the trailers, and every trailer comes on, and they're saying it loud enough, like they're right behind me. So it wasn't like they were in the theater. Unfortunately, the theater wasn't that packed. I think it was a Sunday afternoon. So they're just talking like they're sitting in their living room through the whole trailers, all that, driving us crazy. Then they start talking during the film. Okay. That's number one. Number two, right next to Maria, and nothing wrong with this guy who was on the spectrum for sure. This dude was laughing like Robert De Niro in Cape Fear at every tiny little joke that happened, to the point where you're like, I was laughing more at that than what was going on in the film. So I just feel like that the theater experience is getting a little bit like it's not holding the same weight it used to. And I think partly because we're sitting at home watching all this stuff all the time, and you get used to just laying around, but then people just don't have the respect like they used to.
Yeah.
And I shouldn't say anything. I got a call in the middle of it, had to do a text. So I'm just as bad.
I have to say, I've been in the movies a lot in the last year, and I have not had that same experience.
This was awful. The guy to my right, there's nothing we could do. He was just because literally a trailer would come up and he'd go running out of the room going, I can't hear this. I can't hear this. I can't hear this. And I'm like, something's not right over there. And then he ended up sitting right next to me, or just laughing. But the film is unbelievably great.
Yeah,
we'll get into it on our show.
I'm dying to see it. I'm really dying to see it.
It is amazing. You almost tear up with just how good the guy is. It's unbelievable.
He originally did not want to do the movie. He did not want to do it. The director
and it's going to tie into. It's going to tie in a little bit to the film that I brought, but he does scenes where he's playing against his younger self from Wild at Heart. Nicky, they call him Nicky Cage or Nicky Kim Coppola, and he ends up kissing himself, and it's just. You guys got to see it. It's great. It's meta. Anyway, we'll talk about it. But that's what I saw. Poor theater experience. Great film. Great film.
Okay.
So
I'm looking forward to seeing.
Highly recommend that one. All right. So today's round robin was a lot of stuff. 80s action films.
You forget how much stuff.
I'm going to ask who wants to go first with this one. I'm not even going to pick.
Debbie.
There you go.
Okay.
Go ahead.
I picked for our viewing talk about is Bruce Willis in his film Die Hard. Yippee Ki Yay.
I'm giving Debbie special treatment on this one because we said we would never review Die Hard, even though our podcast is named after that, basically, a line from that film. But yes, this is a quintessential 80s action film, so it should be talked about.
Yeah.
So Debbie, what did you like about that film?
This movie means so much to me because this movie means fighting for your marriage. We were talking about marriage earlier, and I really think this is truly how marriage is. Die Hard.
Man,
the title says it all.
Wait.
So here's the guy. What?
What you get out of Die Hard? It's a marriage film? It's a relationship film?
Oh, it's fighting for your marriage.
Oh, fighting for your marriage.
Debbie's going to work a bit into this.
She just did. She just did it.
I just really love the guy who's the common man You know, he's nobody special. He's not super handsome. He's not wealthy by any means. His wife is wealthy. He takes the second tier in the wealth department with his wife, right?
Right.
And it seems like he is working in New York City as a cop, and she's out in where were they? Hollywood,
California.
Los Angeles.
Yep.
yeah,
Nakatomi
Hollywood.
Plaza.
Yeah.
Century
City.
Plaza. Right.
City.
Some kind of big thing going over in that big tall building with Chinese involvement or Japanese involvement. You know,
Japanese.
Japanese. And when you have that extent, you know, of money, and she's like up there high in the company, you know, she's making a lot of dollars.
Dinero.
And the Japanese look down on a married woman, I think, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, right.
That's why she changed her name back
Right.
to her
To
maiden
Gennaro.
name, Gennaro.
Right. And that's why he was so frustrated. You don't even have my name anymore. Sees it on the screen.
So he doesn't leave his job because he doesn't want to, I guess, carry the guitars around, as our previous movie said.
Ooh,
You
a
know.
callback.
Nice tie-in.
Thank you. And it's just so wonderful about these two people. You know, he's the hero. He comes back to save the day. And, you know, with his just kind of Brooklyn smarts cop thing. Tough, you know, he's a diehard. He's working hard to save his woman and his family. And I just love this film.
She almost used it in romantic comedies when we did them.
I guess you could, based on that kind of theory. Of course you could. You know, he broke up with her between 2 and 3, though, right? They broke up.
Well, they were separated in Die Hard.
Yeah, they were separated.
Well, they were still married. They
That's
weren't
right,
living
but they were
together.
separated.
Separated
Thing,
by
you know,
the coasts.
Right.
And by her depiction, she really was admiring her husband. You know, the whole time she was hoping, you know, well, you could stay here at the house because he couldn't find a room, and in the inn, and
on Christmas.
and she was taking him in and kind of like really wanted him to.
Yeah, if
stay.
I remember, the best quote in that film was her saying, you're gonna define what a marriage is, or whatever he says to, she says to him about.
We never finished this conversation in July.
I had to take it.
Right. No matter what the consequences, no matter what it did to our marriage,
It
you had
didn't
to
do
take
anything
this
to our marriage
opportunity.
except maybe change your idea of what our marriage
I
should
think
be.
you have a clue as to what my idea of our
I know
marriage should be,
exactly what your idea of our marriage should be.
Not all the cool other quotes, but that one is the one about their marriage and
Yippee Ki Yay, mother marriage.
wow,
Yeah.
unbelievable. Well, that's an interesting take.
Debbie looked
80s
at it.
action films. Well, thank you, Debbie, for that.
You know, marriage basically is a big fight.
It is,
Constant
but as far as 80s action movie films go, I think we should probably talk about the unbelievable action in this picture.
No, that's Debbie's film. That's no.
yeah,
no,
but I mean,
disagree.
so you don't bring up any of the action.
Don't
in the
need to.
80s
Everybody
action
knows.
pic?
I think Debbie, Debbie, I appreciate you bringing Die Hard on and taking that approach, because everybody can talk about the action in Die Hard. It's been
It's
talked.
an 80s action round robin.
This is why we don't do this or Jaws, because everybody's done it. What more can we add? Debbie found a back door, and it's the marriage story. Good
Debbie
job, Debbie.
likes the back door.
No stuff.
Appreciate
Ralph,
that.
you are so passive aggressive.
I'm not. No, I'm aggressive.
Ralph, why don't you
aggressive
go
about this.
next? Why don't you go next, Ralph?
That's fine. I'll go next. I brought 1989's John Woo's The Killer,
Oh,
Ooh.
Oh,
starring Chow Yun-fat. Is that his name? Chow Yun-fat and Danny Lee as the two, one assassin, one cop. This is a woo-ish film, like there ever was one. I mean, I think this is one of his first, with the doves in the church and the corny music that's playing. I still have that woman's song in my head. The song, so we know the story. An assassin, Chow Yun-fat plays an assassin who's hired to kill a triad boss, I guess. He actually works for the triads. He's an assassin for the triads. He goes into this club and starts this whole shootout and ends up accidentally blinding the singer, who was singing this beautiful, corny, awful song that I just can't get out of my head. So he blinds her, and now the whole movie is he's trying to take care of her. She can't see him, and he's now going to take care of her and repair but it's a John Woo film, which means shootouts in slow motion,
Double-handed
gorgeous.
45s.
every trope you've seen about two guys pointing guns at each other, all the stuff that everybody uses, and he copied from samurai films, and the duality in all the films. You know, good guys, bad guys. You can't tell the difference.
Face
the church.
Off.
Well, that's my tie-in to Nicolas Cage was, you know, a lot of the moves in Face Off are the same moves that everybody, like, you look at Broken Arrow, look at all those John Woo films he did in America. Hard Target, I think he did as well.
Yep.
It's all Wooisms. And he's a very corny dude. Turns out he likes musicals, and he wanted to direct a musical. His church scenes, he's very religious, so the church is always a sanctuary, both for the good guys and bad guys, because God doesn't differentiate between good and bad, and it's kind of a safe place. But it's got all the elements of a classic John Woo, and I think it's the granddaddy of his stuff, because he did Hard Boiled after this. Chow Yun-fat was a big comic and romantic lead, and he became a superstar over there. He did a couple Replacement Killers. I think he tried a couple over here. Didn't quite work, I don't think. But it's an amazing film. It's so corny, and so the language is on the nose. Now I'm watching a subtitled version, so I think there's issues with the translations and just kind of some of the silly things they were saying in the translations. But it gets me. Every time I watch it, you kind of go, this is so corny. But by the end, you're rooting for these two guys. One's an assassin, one's a cop, fighting to get out of whatever situation they're in. And the shootouts are amazing and long and bloody and corny. And it's just a great action film. And
I've never seen that movie. That came out in 89, right?
89.
It is.
I saw it, but here's a funny thing. The first time I saw it, I didn't see it because it was part of a double feature at the art house to Charles, and it was The Killer and something else. But they showed a version with the incorrect titles in it, you know, and they showed A Better Tomorrow instead of The Killers. And of course, I had no idea, you know, till somebody said, you know, that wasn't The Killers. It's A Better Tomorrow. I'm like,
well, that's a good one too, though. That's a good one.
Yeah,
that's an excellent movie.
He dedicated The Killer to Martin
disappointed.
Scorsese. He dedicated this film to Scorsese because Mean Streets got a lot of Mean Streets in there as well.
yeah.
Are you saying, Sean, that you went to the movies and saw another movie that was told that was the movie that was being shown?
Yeah, it's in Chinese. Who would know?
Chris, you were going to say something before. He's
yeah,
all
I
over
mean,
Shanton.
That's crazy.
The main titles were in Chinese. They weren't translated. They had subtitles under the dialogue.
Jeez.
The Killer, let me put it this way. I worship at that movie. That movie is amazing. I've always made the comment that it has the greatest shootout. It has the second greatest shootout in it. And then 30 minutes later, it has the greatest shootout ever. The shootout at the house, the shootout in the church, and then all the other little ones in between are just all fantastic. I actually really love the story. You know, it's actually loosely taken from Jean-Pierre Melville's Les Samurai, which is a French New Wave film that I also love. Not nearly as violent, not nearly as frenetic, of course, but the same kind of thing about an assassin who gets seen and then they try to start killing him. And it's the same kind of thing. There's a singer and everything, but no, I love The Killer. I think it's the pinnacle of John Woo's career, quite honestly.
Oh, no, I thought Mission Impossible 2 was that, but no, Face Off for me is like the.
No, I mean, Face Off is fun and it's goofy, but I actually think The Killer has real heart. You know,
that's
what I mean?
what it's all heart. It's all heart. That's what makes it so schmaltzy. And at first you're going, oh my, but then it just catches you. That scene they do, I don't know if you remember, Chris, the scene where they first the assassin and the cop meet in the blind woman's apartment.
Right.
And they're both doing the scene where they're holding guns on each other, but they don't want her to know they have guns.
Yes.
So they're positioning themselves in a way that she can't tell that they're holding guns, and they're flip flopping all over the place. It's just it's a ballet. It's just great. It's a great film. And
it is.
Unlike American 80s films, you're right. It has a corny heart there. And when you see doves, you know, and all the candles that are lit, like who lights all those candles in the church, and the doves are flying. You go, this never works, but it works every single time. It's beautiful.
And then when and little things like, you know, I just remember during that great shootout at the end, when the dove like lands on the candles and puts out a whole bunch of it with its wings, you're just like, I'm not sure how he got a dove to do that, but it's pretty awesome.
All the bad guys are wearing white suits, so when they get shot, there's blood everywhere.
But, oh yeah.
Was that any play? Can we stream that anywhere?
I borrowed a DVD actually.
I've never seen it.
It's not. I thought it might be on Criterion, but you may be able to stream it. I don't know. To look it up.
All right.
I can send you.
And I'll say this: I actually really like the dub. It's not like
You said that you'd rather listen. I don't like listening to that stuff.
Yeah, I like the dub because it allows me, in some ways, it allows me to focus on the action.
Oh, as opposed to reading the subtitles.
Because I mean, the dub isn't great. Their mouths don't match as well as they should, obviously, because it's two totally different kinds of language. But at least they do a decent job of starting and stopping at the same time.
Yeah, they try. I never liked that.
But they also changed the like Squid Game did that. The dub. Mm-hmm. They changed the meaning of some of the dialogue versus the
subtitles.
Well, they even did this thing where
a lot of this more palatable to American audiences.
Well, it's like in The Killer, the cop and the assassin, when they got together and they were meeting in front of the girlfriend, they were calling each other in the original script like Disney names, like Mickey Mouse and Goofy or something. Well, when they brought it to America, they couldn't do that. So they had to change it to Squid Boy and Big Head or something. Like it's this crazy.
Well, it's weird because the dub, they still call each other Mickey Mouse and Donald Duck.
Right.
Yeah. They do that in the dub. It's in there. But and that's probably one of the sillier things, but it's this whole idea of like what I love about that film is like you said, where the the line between criminal and policeman and cop is blurred. It's like by the end, it's like it's like this brotherhood of warrior, and it's really it's
a duality, and that's what they play. He played with that in Face Off, and in the unbearable weight of massive talent, they throw it back. You've seen the scene in the trailer where he sees his
the gold-plated gun.
But they do this great thing where they merge the face of the statue and Nicolas Cage's face looking in the window, right? And they just they captured that again. So the John Woo was throughout all that stuff, and I just love it. And like even Mission Impossible, the stuff he was doing with Tom Cruise in that one, corny as hell. But when you look at it, you're like, oh, that's an artist. Bad. He's an artist. And I read that he didn't storyboard any of the action scenes.
Wow.
Because he didn't want any, he doesn't storyboard any of his action scenes. He says, I'm an artist. To me, it's like a palette. So when I get there, I'm going to look around and see what I want to do. Plus he didn't want people stealing the storyboards and see what he was doing. So interesting cat, man. I mean, because he's very religious. He's very corny, loyalty, all that stuff comes out in all his films. And it's fantastic. So that was mine. The Killer, 1989.
Good choice.
So, all right. Sean.
Well, first I want to just talk about 80s action and cinema today. And I think if you look at 80s action and cinema today, you see what's wrong with movies. And part of it is lack of clearances. In the old days, the studios put out a lot more movies because there were clearances. Like a certain theater got the A movie and no other theater within like an 11-mile area could show that same movie. So if you were a studio, you needed A and B movies out. And a lot of the films that were out in the 80s, these action films, were essentially B movies. So they were never designated like that. You would see like Steven Seagal films and all these action stars. And, a lot of these films made a lot of money and were very successful. But today you're not seeing these movies in the theaters. They're not making, if they make an action film, it's like John Wick, where they're going to spend $200 million, or a James Bond movie. And, you're not seeing the Steven Seagal, Jean-Claude Van Damme films that we used to see.
Jean-Claude. I got to do Drew here. Jean-Claude, not Jean-Claude.
Well, it's, what can I say?
Chuck Norris.
Let's look. Who was the other big one at the time? Like Arnold.
Arnold, yeah. But don't you think all those are going
and Red Heat and things?
But don't you think all that's now going straight to streaming? All that stuff that
where is it? I don't see those action. They're going towards series, not films.
No. Well, that whole Bruce Willis run of crappy stuff he did, which we talked about, those are all action, what they called action films.
No, but what I'm saying is they're not. Those are really low budget films that are not going. It's not like Netflix or Amazon is stepping in and making these mid-level action films.
They tried it with they're doing female versions, right? With
that's what the real thing is. They don't want the testosterone laden movies anymore. Although Chris Hemsworth did a movie on Netflix
that was great,
which was awesome, and they're making a sequel to it.
Yeah, I forget
and
the name of
it did extremely The Abductor or something like that. It had a name like that. The Extractor.
right?
The Extractor.
It was great, but the audience and Netflix especially, they don't want that macho guy anymore. They want to turn it, they want like that movie with all the women, The Spies. It bombed. It did nothing because that's not
like
what people.
That film, I can't remember the one Debbie and I watched. It was a science fiction film. It's like everybody was a woman in it. The only men were the villains. It's sort of like now I watch a movie on Netflix. If it's a woman protagonist, I know the villain's a man. It's just, and I don't mean to get this thing, but it is true. They were we'll see. This is a cycle, hopefully.
Yeah, exactly.
I don't think these films, people are loving these films, so we'll see. But
we have to admit it did
female thing.
Yeah. But the 80s did turn a guy like Steven Seagal should never have been in a film. The guy's terrible.
And he's a terrible person.
But he has a string of, and Jean-Claude Van Damme, as much as I love him, man, without those like the hockey one he did and all that good stuff, he did a lot of cool stuff too. But a lot of guys got acting jobs that after Arnold, right, who made it big. So you had all these guys trying to simulate what he did.
Yeah, Jeff Speakman, right, perfect.
Yeah, another one, yeah.
But the fun, it's like I used to see it seemed like there was one of those movies out like every other week.
Yeah.
When I used to go to the movies all the time. And it's like recently I saw Behind You, Above the Law, which was, I think, Seagal's first film. And that was recently on like AMC or something. And I was watching it. And I remember really liking the movie when I first saw it. But watching it now, it's like, oh my God, this is such a cheap piece of crap. The sets were bad. Seagal set the standard for the acting. William Forsythe was in it. He was good. But it's like everything about the movie was just bad.
But his style of fighting, action-wise, was different in that movie. He was very different than anyone. And he was remember how skinny he was? Yeah. He was a thin guy back then.
Ponytail?
He didn't have a ponytail in that movie.
In Above the Law, one of those movies, he had a ponytail.
Yeah, but not in that one.
Oh, okay.
No, in Above the Law, he does. His hair's a little longer. It's maybe collar length, but it's.
I'll say there's his pony.
He said, "You might be above the law, but you're not above mine."
Yeah. No, so let me go to. There were so many great films to choose.
Oh yeah.
And I went with a relationship film, like my wife.
Oh God.
And
War of the Roses.
Yeah.
Good action in that.
Yeah. I went with a film that utterly surprised me when I first saw it. I saw it at the Golden Ring Mall Theater. They used to have Monday night $1 movies. So I'd go to work, and then a couple guys from work would go and see two movies. For $1, why not?
You can tell you're a writer, Sean. You're building up to it. That's what I like about this.
But I went to see this, like Golden Globus film. And usually they made like the crappy late, Charles Bronson films.
Yeah.
Or the crappy, what's the guy who never cries? They always made all the jokes about it. Walker, Texas Ranger.
Chuck Norris.
They were making you think the Seagal films were bad in budget. Globus stuff was total crap. So when I went in to see this film called Runaway Train, I was absolutely blown away because not only was it a great action film, it was simply a great film. And it was, the pedigree is amazing. It was originally going to be directed by Akira Kurosawa as his American film debut. So he and his team came up with the story and all. And it was originally going to star Henry Fonda and Lee Marvin, if I'm not mistaken.
Wow.
Henry Fonda and Lee Marvin.
And who did it end up with?
It ended up with an amazing cast of John Voight and Eric Roberts.
Yeah. And Rebecca De Mornay.
So Akira Kurosawa backed out, and they brought in this Russian director. His name eludes me, who later did, I think, Tequila Sunrise, Tango and Cash. You know, he never came close to it.
There's an 80s action.
That's another. Yeah, there you go.
Yeah. So, but this film, you know, and also it had like Eddie Bunker in it, who was later in like, you know, in some Quentin Tarantino films, who was a real prisoner, and he worked on the script too.
Right.
To get, you know, well, here's the plot. John Voight plays this guy Mannheim, everyone calls him Manny, who's been locked in his cell, welded in his cell in solitaire, you know, literally welded in there because he's like an escape artist and like the toughest criminal in the prison. And he wins the lawsuit. Some lawyers are to have him released, and the warden hates him. He hates the warden, but you know, Manny is the hero to the other prisoners because he doesn't take any shit, and he's escaped, and he's tough. And one person who idolizes him is this young guy, Eric Roberts, who's like a boxer who thinks he's a criminal, who thinks he's bad, but when Mannheim decides to escape with Eric Roberts' help. He needed Eric Roberts' help because Eric Roberts took something to the laundry, a basket, the clothes to the laundry, gave him an opportunity to get to where they could escape. He decides impulsively to go with them. And he has a real education in what toughness is and all, because this guy gives him like zero respect. You know, I mean, he is, you know, Mannheim is a tough guy. They escape, they go across, they're in Alaska, they go across a glacier. They end up in a railroad area where they jump on a train. And every movie has a great coincidence. They jump on a train just as the engineer, it's 4 engines, just as the engineer in the lead car has a heart attack and falls off the train before he can stop it. And so then they're on a runaway train, like the movie says. You know, I mean, it's a very literal title. But what they don't realize is that there's another person on the train, Rebecca De Mornay, who does like cleaning. She's a cleaner, and she was asleep on the train and didn't realize it was a runaway until it smashes in the caboose of another train. But it's a really exciting sequence, and the relationship between the guys, because I mean, Eric Roberts like totally has this hero worship for Manny, who doesn't give a damn about him at all. He does try to. There's a great scene where John Voight tries to tell him when Eric Roberts like, I want to do this and I want to do that. And he's like, no, what you're going to do is you're going to get some job cleaning dishes at a restaurant that a convict could get. And you're going to spend all day cleaning, making this clean. Then the boss is going to come in and say, oh, look, you missed that space there. You missed that space. And you're going to keep your eyes on the ground so that you just don't jump up and strangle the life out of him and all. And finally, when he gets done, he goes, that's what you're going to do. And he's like, I would never do that. I'd rather go to jail. And he goes, oh, the problem, because he says, if you could do that, you could be the head of a corporation. They're like, could you do that? He's like, nah. But essentially, there's the B story is the warden trying to get him back. He later discovers he's on the train. And the C story is they're trying to stop the train before it destroys a bridge. And secondly, before it destroys a potential chemical plant when it can't make a curve. So awesome. They really put the stakes up. But the real movie is about the relationship. And Eric Roberts is at the big gloom. It's, is at the end of the second act when all is lost. And, it's like they know they're going to die now because they can't get to the lead engine. And Eric Voight essentially puts Eric Roberts on a suicide mission. And he knows the kid is going to die. And they get in this big fight. And Eric Roberts dresses down Voight like, we admired you, we loved you, and you're all bullshit, just like the war. I mean, it's just a great scene, and I always tear up. I'm tearing up talking about it.
Oh my god!
And I tell you what, it's because Eric Roberts was so freaking good in this movie.
Right.
This is at the height of his power. He was in also at the same time. He was in Pope of Greenwich Village. And he was like in Star 80 and Coca-Cola Kid.
Yeah.
I mean,
John Voight, of course, is chewing up scenery left and right. I mean, he's doing
this film is the biggest acting. The major objection to this film is that these guys are a little over the top.
Oh my God, a little over the top. That's like, yeah.
Are like,
Anaconda,
what
he was way
happened
over
to
the top.
Anaconda, he was.
Anaconda, he was way over
But
the
no,
top.
but he's sort of doing that in this one. He's like got a weird accent, and he's just tough guy, and of course, yeah, Eric Roberts always goes a little bit like crazy, right? Always in his films.
Well, the funny thing is, I had a crazy brother who took his own life, and every time I see Eric Roberts in this part, and in these films of this period, I always think of my brother, and my brother is kind of crazy, but so is our Eric, as you said, so are Eric Roberts characters. There's this bravado and this naive and bravado at the same time.
Yeah, no, he's very likable. It's a likable quality he has in these films. I mean, you root for him.
Here's the thing: you're saying, and you're right, that they're both over the top.
Oh.
But they were both nominated for Oscars for them.
Yeah.
Canceled each other out.
Well, the cinematography, it's an amazing film. Like you look at a film
shot beautifully.
Yeah, it's all in the snow.
Yeah.
And like the only thing I remember is Voight by the end of the film is standing on the front of the train as the train is barreling down and I think he's on his way to die. I forget. I don't even remember, but that scene.
Well, he knows he's going to die.
Yeah.
The warden gets down onto the train from a helicopter down a ladder, and Voight subdues him. Eric Roberts and them, they couldn't get over to the lead thing, but in order to have revenge on the warden, Voight makes the leap and succeeds. Everyone thinks he's dead I remember, you must remember if you saw the film, the scene where he's holding on to the undercarriage of the train. He gets his hand around the thing, that holds the coupling thing, and it crushes his fingers, and there's blood everywhere.
Yeah.
And but he eventually subdues the warden in there, and he's like, "Well, we're gonna die. I win. We're gonna die." And the warden's like trying to think of something that will motivate him to stop the train, and it's like, he goes, "Well, what about the punk and the girl?" And he goes, just us. And he goes back and uncouples the train, which is a total surprise to Eric Roberts and Rebecca De Mornay, because they assumed he was dead. And then, Eric Roberts is like, man, he stopped the train. But the situation is his character was essentially naive and never understood this Mannheim character. I mean, this guy was in an entirely different league.
Yeah, naive. He was a little simple in the film. He was kind of a simple guy.
Well, they say rapos are stupid. That's what he tells them. Because at one point he goes, "Oh, what do you mean rapo?" Because I saw your sheet. He goes, "Oh, that was just statutory rape."
Oh my God. That's a good pull. That's a good film. And I don't know if a lot of people have seen that one, but it
doesn't get enough love because it is. And I think a lot of people are intimidated by it. It's also Danny Trejo's first film too.
Oh wow.
So he's boxing with Eric Roberts in the first act. So I would definitely recommend. I've been tempted before to make this my choice for an episode, but I've resisted because it wasn't streaming anywhere. And now it's streaming on HBO Max. I got the Blu-ray. And I'm also hoping, because Eric Roberts been in like 3 films I've done or worked on, and he has liked some of our posts and some of my posts.
What?
I have invited him via Twitter to appear on our podcast, and maybe we will. If we do, I'd like to.
Oh, that would be great to get him talking about that movie.
Right.
Yeah. Or I'd be happy to talk about any movie like we did with, Lou Diamond Phillips. But
we can only talk. The only one we couldn't talk
Lou
about
Diamond
was
Phillips was kind of he wasn't.
All right. Good job. That's a good one. Chris.
Okay. Runaway Train is pretty good. I got to catch up with that one again. I chose, you were talking about B-level movies, Sean, and I chose a pure B-level film, but I like to call it an overachieving B-level film. It's one of those B-level movies that you watch and you're like, that was really, B plus, exactly, Debbie. And I chose 1987's Jack Shoulder's The Hidden, starring Mike Murray and Kyle MacLachlan. So this is kind of a weird moment. Kyle MacLachlan was in this film. This is post Dune and post Blue Velvet, but pre Twin Peaks. Yeah. So like he was kind of in that weird stage where he's like, okay, I've done a couple of Lynch things, but So he ends up in this movie, and the basic story of the film is it's really out there. It's kind of a sci-fi action film, and it's basically about an alien criminal and an alien cop that show up in LA. And the alien criminal is literally like a giant slug that goes into your body and takes you over and uses you up until it finds another host.
I hate when that happens.
Yeah. And so what happens is it goes around and it loves fast cars and heavy metal music, which is kind of silly, but it's very 80s.
I know, slug wood.
Exactly. And it knocks and it robs banks and that's the thing is what happens so what happens is Michael Nuri catches this case, right? Of this everyday guy, super normal dude. Everybody says he's a nice
walks
guy.
out of a hospital. He's an old guy walks out of a hospital, right?
The first
guy, right? The
first guy that opens the story, regular guy, kills people, steals cars. What's going on? He's going crazy, right? And then what happens is he gets shot to pieces and he ends up in this hospital. And he ends up next to this old guy who's, had a double bypass and all this kind of stuff. So right before the host body expires, he leaves, right? And the slug goes into the other guy and walks out. Anyway, so what happens is Michael Nuri is this cop, and then all of a sudden this FBI guy shows up acting a little weird. And it turns out that Kyle MacLachlan is actually also an alien, but he's the good alien pursuing the bad alien. So it all comes down to so it's basically this chase action movie across LA where the one cop is trying to lie to the other cop to get to help him out. One of my favorite parts of the film is when Kyle MacLachlan's alien cop levels with him, tells him the truth. It cuts to him throwing him in jail. Like you cut to a close-up of MacLachlan's face and the bar slide across him, and which I always thought was a great reaction because cops are very grounded guys. They are not guys that believe in the shadowy criminal behind the scenes or weird things happening. But it's a great film. It's got a lot of great action. Also, surprisingly enough, one of Danny Trejo's early films. He's an inmate in the county jail that gets killed when the alien takes over a different cop and just starts, killing all these guys. But really but it's just got a really great, it's just got great action, great car chases, right? And you can tell it's all done on a very B-level budget, but it is a real sleeper hit. And it's got just some great action. I highly recommend it. And then I won't even get into it if you haven't seen it. The ending is a little bit, the ending is one of those endings that you're like, did that just happen? It's not crazy or weird, but what happens at the end is you wonder if the Michael Nuri character gets shot up, right? And he's dying. And then the FBI guy gets shot up. And we're not sure what happens at the end of the film with who's who and who's not. I'm pretty sure that basically what happens is the alien takes over Michael Nuri's body and then just lives as Michael Nuri's,
right.
Lives as the husband, the father to this girl, and the husband to his wife, just takes over his life, which is kind of funny, but it's kind of weird.
Face Off.
It's really
well, it's like what they did in Wonder Woman.
High quality B.
Chris Pine.
You didn't mention Claudia Cardinal in her thigh-high boots. You didn't even mention.
This movie. Yeah, there's so many. Michael Nuri's awesome.
She's pretty great in it too.
Yeah,
she looks great.
Looks like she was having a ball doing the.
I love they
too.
designed that. They designed that dress to show her ass crack. They literally designed that to show her ass crack, and she loved doing it. The director's track on this on the Laserdisc is amazing. The guy Jack Shoulder directed it.
Yep, Jack Shoulder.
And you're right, they didn't have a lot of money.
I never
Jack
heard of him.
Shoulder, not a lot of money, and there are a lot of technical things they had to get through. A lot, like you said, a lot of car chases. Some special effects in there. Some of it comes off as a little bit cheesy, with the laser beam stuff and things like that.
They really couldn't pull that off in the day.
No, that he had that little gold laser that kind of fit in
silver. The little silver was a gold or silver. Yeah,
was it silver? I thought it was gold.
It shoots like golden beam.
But it was still. I mean, it was still good.
But like Chris
and it was creepy when that slug came out of the mouth.
Yeah,
that was creepy, man. That was creepy.
And the Chekhov's flamethrower, there's a flamethrower in this scene.
Flamethrower.
Let's see what I wonder if that's going to figure in this plot anywhere.
Yeah, the scene where like literally in the first 10 minutes, one of the other policemen shows up. He's like, I took this flamethrower off like a gang member. And you're just like, well, gee. And they're like, book it into evidence. And you're like, okay,
That was fortuitous.
I'm pretty sure I'm going to see that flamethrower.
You'd never see a skilled filmmaker like Quentin Tarantino show a flamethrower.
Yeah, he did a nice job with that one. This is I told you guys this story before, but this is where the director explained why Kyle MacLachlan is such a movie star. He said, when you meet Kyle MacLachlan in person, he looks like every other person. There's nothing special about him. You put the camera lens on him, and he says, when you look in that camera lens, that's when you go, holy crap, that guy's a movie star. And you had Michael Nouri there, why Michael Nouri wasn't a bigger star, I think, because he was in this film, he was even difficult. There's scenes where they're walking together on the street, and Nouri's fighting about whether he should be in front of Kyle MacLachlan as he's walking or behind to show weakness and strength and all this. And Nouri's questioning every direction that's going on. It's like, come on, man, just do the job. And he did a great job. Ultimately, he comes off pretty good in this film, Michael Nouri. There's that scene where he loses all his bullets and he puts his hand up like this. That's all done. That was all, Nouri came up with that. Mm-hmm. If I put my hands up, I'll be okay. And well, you can see what happens, but great film. That's a great film.
I have not seen this film since the theaters. And I'm glad MacLachlan was an alien because he is a star, but he's also weird. You know what I mean?
No, he's got definitely. There's an interesting
a
look
vibe
to him. Yeah. Especially
everything you'd seen of him up until that point.
Mm-hmm. That hairstyle he had in Showgirls, that thing where the hair came over his eye. It's all weird. But this had a Thing vibe too. This had a kind of a Thing vibe for it too. The whole.
You know what? It's also like this Denzel Washington film from the 90s. Where a demon was going into a.
That's a great film.
Great ending. That had a great ending.
That's Fallen.
Oh yeah,
John Goodman.
Good ending.
Wasn't John Goodman in there?
This was Fallen was a more deadly serious, I'd say.
Fallen was death. Yeah, Fallen was great. That's a good one.
Yeah. This one is more fun.
Yeah, this one didn't. It's kind of a cult. Not a lot of people know about this film, which is kind of hard to understand because it's really well done.
It's probably on Tubi. I'll probably look for it tonight.
Yeah.
Well, I looked for it and I couldn't find it anywhere.
Let me know. I converted my Laserdisc. Laserdisc looks great, actually. It's one of the conversions I've done that actually holds up pretty well when I blow it up and do it for my Plex. I can send you that, and the director's track on that is fantastic. It really is interesting to listen to that.
I'd really
like. If they're complaining about the actor, that should tell you something.
Well, he's just, he's given us all the insight on the technical stuff and what they had to do for Claudia. There's, that's a pretty tricky scene they're doing with her, all dressed in the way she was dressed. And
how long after the film did the track come out? The commentary. How long after the film?
Oh, I don't know when the Laserdisc was produced. Actually, I couldn't tell you.
Because that's always interesting. I always find it, interesting, especially films from the 80s. A lot of times when they come out on DVD for the first time, in 2003, literally 15 years later, that I always feel like, hey, it's been 15 years. They're going to be a little more,
open.
They're going to be a little more open. Thank you.
Yeah. I think this probably came out pretty, or, Laserdisc, 90s. It came out in 80. What'd you say? 89, 87.
87.
So I'd imagine this Laserdisc came out 91, 92, maybe.
Okay.
It's not that far from when they're shooting. And this is when a lot of people were putting these things on Laserdisc, the director's track. So it looks like I said,
laser track, but I haven't listened to many of them lately. But I will say one that I thought was really funny was for the Barry Levinson movie Sphere.
Yeah.
And Samuel L. Jackson did one.
I heard that.
And who's the woman who she was from?
Sharon Stone.
Yeah. So Samuel L. Jackson, through the whole movie, it's like, oh, here's the start. Oh, he was great to work with, yada, yada, yada. And going on. And then, every time he'd see an actor, he'd say something good about him, except Sharon Stone. And then finally, there's this one scene, like, where it's probably 2/3 of the way through the movie, where she, looks at the camera and gives it a really angry look. And then he just says, well, we all saw that look.
That's a classic. That's a classic commentary. I don't know why I heard that commentary, but that's a well-known commentary that he did that stuff.
And the movie's awful.
Yeah. The other thing about one more thing about the hidden Laserdisc is that not only did they put the trailer at the end, the movie trailer, they had TV commercials.
Oh, cool.
that they put on from 1987. You want to see these mooks coming out of the movie talking about the film with their, with the what do you call it? The mullets in there, the tank tops. Just a riot. It's so in its time. It's unbelievable. So that's fun. That was a good one to watch again. So I enjoyed that. All right, John. I saved the best for last. I thought.
Well, first of all, I struggled with this. I knew the movie I was going to pick right away, but as I went through the list, Aliens is a classic, great action movie.
Yes,
I actually loved Rambo: First Blood Part 2. I think that was in the 80s. I love the action in that movie. Lethal Weapon, I absolutely love, and the first Terminator. Yeah. I mean, these are great 80s action movies.
Lethal Weapon 1 and 2.
Yeah, but one to me
one started it all. Right.
Yeah, because it kind of set the tone for those.
That was a nice relationship film too.
Yeah. Yes. Mm-hmm. But the movie I picked is my favorite movie of all time and is also listed as one of the best action movies ever. And that, of course, is Raiders of the Lost Ark.
I thought that was I thought you were doing Dick Tracy.
I have a Dick Tracy hat, not this one. This is my favorite movie of all time. I remember when I saw this in the movie theater, I didn't know it was based on the early serials of the 50s, 40s, and 50s. I didn't know that. So I went in completely oblivious to what it was about, other than it starred Harrison Ford. And when I saw the movie, my mouth dropped. I'll tell you, the first 20 minutes of that movie is better than most 2-hour movies. Yes. What happens in that first 20 minutes. And the set pieces of this movie, the action involved, the stunts involved are spectacular. We did a show on this actually, which I'll put. I'm gonna put the link down because we talk about it in a lot of depth. But when we talked about The Sting, remember what I said was this is one of those movies that I think is a perfect movie. The cast, the story, the way it was done. This to me is a perfect movie. Harrison Ford is great. Karen Allen is great. Everybody's great in this movie. Spielberg at his height. George Lucas at his height. Everything about it. And it's got a great story. And the other thing I liked about Indiana Jones, he's not Superman. And during this movie, he gets the crap wailed out of him in the movie. I mean, he's beaten and bloodied. In fact, the line is, well, you're not the Indy I used to know. He goes, it's not the age, sweetheart, it's the mileage. I mean, it just encompassed it. And this movie I can watch over and over and over again. I never get bored with it. It still holds up today. It is the best out of all the Indiana Jones movies, although I like the third one. I did like that one because of Sean Connery. But this, to me, this exemplifies action. And it's on most people's, if not the top 3 action movies of all time. So that, to me, that's the action movie for me when I think about the 80s.
This is the movie I was going to pick.
Really?
Yeah,
You have great taste.
And I a question for you. When you said it was a cereal,
yeah,
are we talking like what do you refer to?
Okay,
not Wheaties or anything.
No, not Captain Crunch or Wheaties.
I was waiting.
No, the old days they had movie cereals before the main movie.
I can't believe
you even Flash that. Gordon.
Yeah. What cereal was it?
Flash Gordon. Well, it was the cliffhangers. That's what George Lucas went for. Actually,
Empire.
Steven Spielberg wanted to do a Bond movie.
Cereal with an S, not a C.
Right. And Lucas talked him into this. I think it wasn't Indiana Jones originally. It was something else. No, it was Indiana. The last name was Jones. It was something else. And Spielberg said, you got to change that. So they made this. And it was a tribute to all those cliffhanger serials of the 40s and 50s. Because if you look at the actions, if you look at the action sequences, they all have cliffhangers in them. And, they're all self-contained action set pieces. It's just such a great movie. And everything about it, even thinking about it makes me smile. Just it's just why that's why you go to the movies is a movie like that.
I think there are so many people that walked out of this film and Star Wars and became filmmakers.
I agree with that.
And it's like the first time people realized, wow, a director really does have a lot to do with how these films are made. And they walked away going, I want to do that. And I think a lot of generations came out of that with that, because this was, when you see this for the first time and like seeing Star Wars for the first time, it literally blows you away. It's like, wow, I didn't know this could be this much fun to be in a movie theater.
And my favorite scene in that movie is where she is drinking him under the table with the
Trying
whiskey.
to, yes.
Oh yeah, yeah.
Oh,
I
they went
love that. That
in
was
the bar,
way-
her bar scene.
Yeah,
The bar scene or when she was with Bullock
Bother.
and she's trying to get him drunk.
Yeah.
Which scene, Deb?
No, when she's when we first see Karen
Okay.
Allen.
When
in the bar.
when she beats
In
the,
the-
yeah,
and,
she
uh,
beats
where
the,
is she in the,
the other person.
Roseanne.
Who didn't? What guy in my age, our age,
Tibet.
didn't
She's
fall
in
in love
Tibet.
with Karen Allen too from that film? Karen
Yeah.
Allen
Yeah.
became everybody's girlfriend.
You know, it's funny. You know, you talk about Spielberg making Raiders of the Lost Ark. Part of it was kind of an interesting thing. He wanted to show. He went into it with a very specific mindset. He wanted to show the theaters he could make a movie on budget and on time because
After
Jaws
all.
was way over budget and over schedule, but made more money than anyone had ever seen, so nobody cared. Same thing with Close Encounters, over budget, over schedule, more money than anyone could care about. And then he made 1941 that went over budget and over schedule, and nobody went to see it. So he kind of had to be like, okay, I got to show these guys. So if you ever watch like the making of it from like 1981, they talk about how like, hey, we blew up this truck, you know, in one scene, but we made sure to use it for the other scene. So they were like shooting things, and all movies are shot out of sequence, not all, but most are shot out of sequence anyway. But they were doing it to make sure that, hey, we're not going to just blow up this truck and then have to spend another 20 grand on another truck. And it was all that kind of stuff. Plus it's just, it goes, it's so fat. It's so great, you know?
Well, and it's lightning in a bottle. You also had Harrison Ford at the top of his game too, and his charm and the way he pulled off some of the stuff in here. And you just wanted to be that guy. You wanted to be.
And he
with
was
him, you
not
wanted
the
to hang
first
out.
choice.
It
was
was
the
Tom
first.
Selleck, right?
Tom Selleck was the first choice, but Magnum PI wouldn't let him out of his contract.
I could see
So-
him doing that too. He would have been good.
He
at
could.
that,
It would
too.
be. It would be different.
Yeah,
it would
different.
definitely be
But it
different.
would still be great.
I think it would have been maybe not as good, but I think it would have been really, really good.
But you're right. It's Harrison Ford's vulnerability as the
Right,
character
exactly.
that makes that so interesting to watch because you
Well,
kind of feel like,
he's the reluctant hero in the piece. You know what I mean?
well, he
and-
kind of like he knows what he's doing, but he's also got weaknesses and he falls down
Right.
the pits and
Yeah.
all that stuff happens. And
that's
and
what
it
I'm
starts
saying.
right at the beginning when the sand thing, when he's figuring out the weight of the gold thing
That
and he
scene
realizes
is just that
that
whole
he's
scene
wrong
is
and- yeah.
incredible.
that they
That's
really
why,
do.
like,
Alfred
Yeah.
Molina's first film too.
That's right.
really
That's
Plays the guy that
Yeah.
the spiders all over him
Mhm.
that comes in.
Okay, another scene I love is when he got the big guy with the turban and he's got his swords and he's going like this all fancy and he just pulls out his
And we all
pistol
know why he did that, right? Because everybody knows the
He was sick
backstory.
as a dog.
Sick,
Harrison
didn't wanna
Ford was
do.
sick as a dog and couldn't do the fight. They had a very elaborate fight scene with
Right.
that guy on the sword.
And
And Harrison
Are
Ford
you
says,
kidding me?
That
No.
was the scene that I think really brought the film to life.
It
That
was
brings
The
that
reaction to
that-
that in the theater.
was hilarious.
brought the house down,
Yeah.
down that scene. And it was because he was sick. I mean, that's what I
when
mean.
this
lightning in
movie,
a bottle.
I saw this. Okay, when this first came out, obviously I saw it in the movie theater. The scene where everybody cheered was the most unrealistic scene when they're looking for him on the boat and they go find Indiana Jones. He goes, I found him, and he points to the submarine and he's climbing up on the submarine. The audience went crazy. I mean, absolutely went crazy right as the dive bell is sounding on the submarine that they're going to dive, and he's managing to hold on to the thing. So it's complete. I mean, talk about suspending your disbelief, but all people cared about was he's going on the ship. He's going to be able to save it. And they went crazy. And I remember that to this day. And that was 81. That came out in 81.
Yeah.
So it was just, and I saw it. I think I saw it when in the initial run. I think I saw it 10 times in the movie theater in a very short time span. Well, Star Wars, I saw in 1977 and 78. I saw it 214 times. I saw Star Wars.
That is insane. Okay,
Yeah.
that's insane.
Because it was just like
I know.
it took me to a place that I always like science fiction, like with Star Wars, but I never thought it could be like that. I mean, I was used to TV Star Trek.
The two moons, right?
Yeah, with the ship.
Two moons. It was
That
like
first scene, we did that in the scene. You know, that scene with a thing, and it's the same thing with Raiders. That opening scene sets up the roller coaster ride that you're about to experience, right?
No, it's,
Just the tension they build. They never show his face, where you see the gun, you see the map, until the guy tries to shoot him. Then he whips him. Then he turns around and the smoke's behind him and he walks into the frame and there's Harrison Ford in all his glory. It was just,
And the way they use the snake
amazing
punch
film.
line to come up
Yeah.
later, it's just
Yeah.
it's all good. You really need to check out the black and white version of that. It's stunning. It is stunning.
But
Because-
if
because that
Spielberg wanted
film-
in black and white, he would have made it black and white.
Spielberg said he shot it as if he was shooting black and white, the way he lit it.
Really?
And you can see that when I think when they created the black and white version, you can see how gorgeous it is. It's gorgeous because that
All
film
right,
is
I'll
all
check it out.
shadows. If you think about
Yeah,
that film,
no,
it's
it
all
is.
light
No,
and shadows.
absolutely. Yeah.
So one other thing I
Absolutely.
want to say about the movies we all picked, which is fascinating. I think Debbie started it. They're all basically they're films with a pretty heavy relationship in there.
Mhm.
All of them.
Yeah.
Right. You know, mine was the cop. You guys, I mean, the hidden was the relationship
Well,
between the
Lethal
cop and the
Weapon,
alien.
Terminator.
That's what I mean. It's
I mean, if
all
you think about these
relationships.
aliens.
Any great movie
And-
is about relationships.
Well, the
I
good
guess I'm
action
being
movies
obvious,
that work
but-
have some heart to them.
you
And,
don't
and there's more than just the action for the sake of the action. That's the difference, I
but
think.
you don't expect them in when you think of action films, you don't go, hey, that's a relationship film. And
Right.
Debbie nailed it with Die Hard, which
Not a Jeff Speakman movie. No.
really no
Even
relationship.
Hard Target. Even Hard Target. I mean, he had a relationship. Why do they call you Chance? My mommy took one. Love that.
Was he Cajun? He was Cajun.
Yeah, he was. That's
Oh,
why they had to do it for his action.
Yeah, I heard
They had to, yeah.
Anyway, I think that was a good run.
Yeah.
I think
Yeah.
like it's so many
Yeah.
movies we could have
Hey,
picked.
and we
from.
left. I'm going to do this for Drew because I knew, and this
Oh,
is
yeah. Mad
second
Max.
choice,
Yeah, yeah.
is Mad Max, not Mad Max, but
The Road Warrior.
The Road
Yeah.
Warrior.
No,
yeah,
great
I
movie.
saw that when I was in film school.
Oh, really?
I got a pass to see it, and you know, it's like how Drew goes on about Mad Max. It was
Fury
just
Road.
like pure cinema. I had never seen. I was a senior in film school in college or something at the time, and
I had the same feeling when I
remember
saw that.
going to see it to people.
That movie was
All
transgressive.
we could talk about, and we had like the little posters that they gave out. 'Cause I think it was first of us saw it, me and some other had like a sneak preview. So they give you the little posters, and there's hung them up in the film lab. I mean, that film was just unbelievable.
Well,
That
that's
was a
also-
movie that after I saw it, I want to know how they made it because I couldn't believe the stuff they were doing
Yeah.
practically.
It's also
You know
the
what I mean?
first time I remember in a film where they pull the rug out from under you right in front of you with that scene where he takes the truck
Oh,
out.
at the end?
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And you never saw that coming. And, you know, to pull that off was pretty amazing. And it's just,
And
just
Mel Gibson had like 20 lines in the whole movie.
yeah.
And
It's
he was
just such
great.
a great film. Such a
Yeah.
you're right. Good
Yeah.
call. All right. So
but that is
first
funny when you
Mad
go
Max-
back and look, when you rabbit hunt like we always do in these things, you forget all the great action movies that came out in the 80s. You really do forget it.
But I tell you, it was just like unremitting action films in the 80s.
All
You could go
testosterone,
to the
baby.
Theaters every weekend. There was an action movie.
And they were all packed. The movie theaters were packed when these movies came out.
I'm telling you,
night,
I'm going to send you the TV commercial from The Hidden. Those were all the guys that saw those films. Okay. I'll send them to you. You guys are going to love them. So,
Yeah.
all right, let's spin the wheel for the next. We'll do a couple more round robins, right?
let's do
Everybody
it.
good with this?
I'm out next week. Let's do it.
You're out next week, Chris?
Yeah, unfortunately.
All right.
The whole week.
That's fine.
What if we switch the day?
Uh,
You're a big part of this, Chris.
I'm busy on. Well, we'll
Okay.
talk all.
All right, so it'll just be the four of us. Oh man, that's
Four
gonna
of
be
us.
fun.
All right, here we go. Let's
Pick
see.
something good. Pick something good.
Unless it's Bad Nuns, and then Drew will show up.
Oh,
Inspired by true events. Okay.
wow.
That could be pretty much anything,
Yeah.
except it has to be true.
Well, yeah. Other than that little detail.
So,
That's interesting. That could be a good one.
I mean, let's
So that
theoretically.
That could be a biography.
Zodiac is inspired by true events.
Right.
That's what
Are
I'm
you
bringing.
calling that one now?
I'm bringing Zodiac.
You are? You're already calling it?
Already called it.
No, you got to think about that.
I
Rob.
just thought of it. That's what I'm bringing. So
Zodiac's pretty great.
It is, but it's
I
a
know
serial killer
Zodiac is
movie.
one of your favorite films. So.
it is one of my faves. So I'm bringing that one. You guys can tell me later what you want to bring, but that's
All
what I'm
right.
bringing. Okay.
Excellent. Chris,
all right.
if you were going to be on it, what would you bring?
Oh man, that's a tough one. I would probably end up going with something like I don't know. I can't
All right,
think-
you know what? Think about it. Let us know, and we'll we'll mention it during the show.
Sounds good. Sounds good.
Now, all I ask, if we're going to do that, all I ask is that you subscribe, you hit the notification button, and you smash the like button, because it really does make a difference.
Again, you're talking to everybody or just us here?
I'm talking to collectively everybody.
Okay.
All of you.
I hate
and
to keep
all of
reminding
you.
people that we all need to hit the like button.
Our subscriptions are going up, and it really does make a difference on the algorithm. So please like it.
I got very
share
excited
it.
when I saw that comment on one, and I realized it was Sean. Sean's commenting on our own stuff.
Listen, it's like any press is good press. Any comment is good comment. Who cares? I'm waiting for Debbie to comment on something. I don't even think she watches the show.
I bet she doesn't. Okay.
You did?
All right. I watched it already.
Every week
is our show.
Well, Jen, Chris's wife, Jen, was very excited when I told her, yes, this lives on iTunes podcasts. Anybody that has iTunes can get any podcast. iTunes feeds it to all of them, which is how we do
but it's
this,
definitely a visual show. It's definitely a visual
that's
show.
what I used
Well,
to think
all I can say is most people I know who are not Debbie and I, and not on the podcast, I know, listen to it.
Yeah.
They don't watch it.
What did you think of those palm trees last week?
They were.
It was beautiful.
And
I'm
there's
so
guy-
jealous.
Oh,
That sky going from one beautiful.
I know. I'm so jealous. I want to go
Yeah, we
away
are stuck
so
here.
bad.
All right. Listen, have a great week, everybody.
Yeah, great show.
Yeah. And we'll see
Do
you
I hear
guys
the music creeping in now?
creeping in. We'll see you on the next one. All right.
Runaway Train and the Killer. Gotta watch this.
See you later, guys. Good night.
See ya.